Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Bread. Today I'm going to focus on Exodus 21 because that's where I was, and pull in some things that I learned in my biblical theology class this morning, which is Thursday, and so that's where I am in the mornings and why I do my videos later in the day. And I'm at my beach house because I'm meeting some ladies from church here this weekend. So, what is Exodus 21 all about? Well, it's about slavery, but not in the terms that we think about slavery. When we think slavery, we think about people going into peaceful places, stealing people, kidnapping them basically, and bringing them back and selling them in countries, because that is what a lot of the most recent versions of slavery were all about. And the Bible actually in Exodus 21 says that is a penalty that should be served by death. Kidnapping and then using somebody is not slavery, as the Bible condones slavery. Slavery is an indentured servant. A lot of times in biblical times, we didn't have credit. You didn't have the ability to gain money and borrow and things like that. And so oftentimes people would sell themselves into slavery so that they could pay off a debt. That is what we're talking about, that type of slavery. And there were laws that governed how those people needed to be treated. And God was pretty harsh on how you needed to be bringing those people into your family, into your business, and how you needed to treat them. So what does it have to do with us today? It has a lot to do with us. We ourselves are indentured servants. We don't often think about it that way, but as I was reading through this chapter, the thing that really jumped out at me was the fact that when sin happened in the Garden of Eden, all of a sudden humanity had a debt it could not pay, just like the slaves of the ancient times. And that slavery to sin and the world was what we were brought into. We were cast out of the Garden of Eden, the place where we weren't indentured servants. But because of sin, we became indentured servants to the world. And only when Jesus came and then paid the price for us, which also is in this code of slavery, were we able to then move to a different master. The master who paid our debt was God, and we became indentured servants to him if we accept that payment and move from the slave master of the world, which is Satan, to the slave master of eternity, which is God. And just the parallels in Exodus 21 are amazing. But I wanted to also point out something else, and something I put in my notes that I thought was really interesting too, was that when you were an indentured servant to that person who was lording over you, allowed you to come in by free will. It was not by force. And if they were a good slave master, they wanted you to be blessed and prosper under their household. Why would they not, if they were a loving master? But if they were a master who didn't care about you, then they would use you and abuse you. And also then the relationship that a master had with a slave that was indentured, that was a good master, brought them in as a family member. They were treated very well. And some slaves chose to stay on even after their debt was paid because they enjoyed that service and being a member of that family so much. And yet those who were poor taskmasters, they were just unconcerned. They could have cared less. And here we see the master of the world versus the master of eternity and of good, which is God. And how equally do those circumstances play out when we choose who we will serve. I wrote in my notes that, when we follow God, He allows us to choose. It is out of our own free will that we say we want to be indentured to you versus being indentured to Satan. And we accept that you paid our price for what we could not pay and what put us into slavery in the first place. The second thing is that his intentions are always to bless us. The enemy, he could care less about us. And oftentimes he will send us running in circles or to destruction because he doesn't care. He doesn't care, and he doesn't definitely want to bless us. And the last thing is God wants a relationship with us. He wants to bring us into his family as children. And yet, does our enemy want that? Oh no. He just wants us to go to hell with him so we can all suffer together. I wouldn't really call that a family relationship, would you? Anyways, so that's what I got out of Exodus 21 today, and encourage you to dive into it too and see what you can find. Thanks for joining me today on Daily Revelations. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everybody.